All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is an exciting day for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. It's an exciting day to be able to announce a part of our future in the old Capitol, a place that symbolizes our past. Our future is the reason that I ran for this office, wanting to create a brighter, better future for all Kentuckians, and knowing that we were at a point in time when we needed to transform our economy if we wanted to truly compete in this world moving forward. That's how we started this administration. But for the last 4 months, Kentucky and the rest of the world has been dealing with the present. The present that includes COVID-19, a worldwide health pandemic that has taken the vast majority of our time and of our energy, and it has taken many Kentuckians from us and continues to. But today marks a big step in moving Kentucky forward. It says that not only will our future not be written by this virus, but our present is no longer going to be controlled by it. This coming Monday, virtually every part of Kentucky's economy will be open to some capacity, the capacity with which we can operate safely under this virus. That is a very big step. And while the pandemic has been painful, it presents us maybe a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to rewrite the future of this state, to rebuild our economy in a more resilient, modern manner that gives us the opportunity to create the types of jobs that we have always dreamed of, where our kids don't look for opportunities outside of Kentucky, because the very best jobs are right here. AgriTech. It is where our past meets our future, where a rich tradition of farming turns into one of innovation, of intellectual property, of scaling ideas to help a small family farm into the next multi-billion-dollar industry, where we spawn a whole new need for advanced manufacturing and for logistics, and where we have the opportunity just in part of this sector to create a $10 billion additional economy here in Kentucky and throughout the United States. It's where a good idea, so many of them occur in Kentucky every day, you ought to see the grants that we put out there, can lead to the next major driver of not just Kentucky's economy, but of the world's. And while we've always known in Kentucky that farming and our food supply chain is important, and while we also knew that there was a threat in the future to it, that we were going to have to increase our food production 70% over the next 20 years just to feed the world's growing population, and do so at a time of changing weather patterns, COVID-19 has driven home how critical it is that we have a stable food supply. We have it here in the United States, and it can not only meet our future needs, but it can take on any virus, any pandemic, any drought, anything that comes our way, because the health of our people and the health of our kids depend on it. It's an opportunity to build our economy in a way where we never have to worry about whether there's going to be food on the shelves of our grocery stores. I don't know about you, but I never want to live through that anxiety ever again. And so today is a number of major announcements. It's because this administration is determined to make the Commonwealth a leader in the global agri-tech industry. Today, we are making leaps forward in a number of different ways. First, earlier today, we signed an international public-private partnership to help lead us into the future. It includes 17 parties that combine the government of the Commonwealth of Kentucky and that of the Netherlands, an area that has built one of the most successful agri-tech industries in the world, along with leading companies in Kentucky and in the Netherlands, along with universities in both places, to bring our entrepreneurs, our intellectual hubs, and our government forces together to build that future that we so desperately want. I got to tell you, it was a special day, not just for us here in Kentucky, but for them. And what it means is we don't have to invent the wheel, that we have partners that have done this, that have created what we are looking to create, and want to take an incredible project we're going to talk about in a minute, AppHarvest, where Jonathan Webb is building the largest greenhouse in North America in eastern Kentucky. A lot of that with the Dutch help. And while he is scaling that project, while he's creating it now, we are going to scale a part of our AgriTech economy on building these greenhouses and other opportunities across Kentucky while that project is still under construction. I want, in a minute, for you all to be able to look at some of the pictures and some of the videos of that project. It shows you just how bright our future can be, how different our economy can be. And while Silicon Valley gets a lot of the press right now, we have an opportunity to create that right here, right now in Kentucky in dealing with AgriTech. We can be first. There's no better place for this signature industry than in our Commonwealth. We already have a strong history in farming and manufacturing, and now we have the potential to add innovation scaled in a way to create jobs. Just the agreement we signed today talks about just how in the greenhouse sector, there's a possibility for $10 billion in investment, a $10 billion economy, and the creation of 30,000 jobs. My commitment is I want as much of that in Kentucky as possible, and so do our new partners. Our location is a huge asset in Kentucky. AppHarvest tomatoes, for example, will be able to reach 70% of the country. We'll talk about that, about how long it takes most of your food to get to the shelves. But Kentucky is positioned from our location up and do this to be the leader, not in 20 years. Our goal is to become a leader today and grow it moving forward each and every day. Our public universities and partners all across Kentucky are going to help us get there. So in addition to the agreement today, the first of its kind, the first that can, to my knowledge, the only state government that the Dutch are working with to try to build up this economy, we're also launching our AgriTech initiative here in Kentucky, where we're going to be doing a couple of things. And if you want to bring up the website. First, we're going to be helping our small businesses right now to grow. To go from, we'll talk about a farm that's now doing aquaponics into a large industry. How do we help people scale up? We also want to create new businesses here in Kentucky, where someone with a good idea in AgriTech, and we'll talk about incentives and grants and loans here in a minute because we have them, can build out that idea first into a small business and then to grow it. And then finally, since we are going to be the AgriTech center of this country, and we hope this world, the way to bring other AgriTech companies here to join those like AppHarvest and Alltech that are doing such a great job. This is our new branding, Kentucky AgriTech, and our new slogan here in Kentucky is Let's Get Growing. And the Dutch ended the call today by saying they have a saying that's let's stop talking and doing. In many ways, that's exactly what we see on this initiative. This initiative is going to have the full backing of the government of the Commonwealth of Kentucky and each and every one of its cabinets with the types of incentives and ability to lure, grow, and start companies in a way that AgriTech is to go to any farm tradition. But it's the logistics and the ditching that let us here in Kentucky all truly grow it in a way like we do our economy. We're going to be able to grow this because Kentucky is the best place in this country for hundreds of reasons, from our location to our workforce, to be a leader, not in the future, but now. Next one. And companies are going to find that we have for years had the great types of incentives, of loans, and of grants to truly grow a business. They've just been, in many cases, in different places and not brought to bear for the full life cycle of a business. We have loan and grant programs, if you'll go back, in our Agriculture Development Board and many other areas where those that are trying something new, trying a new idea, can get help. We have our traditional incentives, which have helped so many, including those in this area. When you're ready to scale up, build big, when you're ready to hire that many people to ensure that you have the incentives that will rival any other state. We have seed capital and in different manners in Kentucky to help you get there. And we have a partnership with state government where we're going to bring all of our experience and areas to bear to make this a true success. I believe not a year from now, but just a couple months from now, you're going to hear this "Let's get growing" in conferences and boardrooms all across the United States. We are going to be, because we are committed to be, the leader in AgriTech, and we are going to get the attention of this nation and of this world. To help us as we move forward, we've got great success stories. While we haven't built the size of the economy that we want, we have anchors that are already with us, that are going to help us, guide us to move in the right direction. Alltech, led by Mark Lyons, is a leader, not just in Kentucky, but globally in AgTech. They are going to be critical in moving forward, and we appreciate the true leadership that Mark has shown, not just in helping to build a company I know created by his dad, Pierce Lyons, who I knew well, but also in his efforts to battle COVID-19, where he has been a leader in this state. But that talks about the big ones, and we'll talk about AppHarvest in a minute. But what about all of those others that can grow? When you go to our website, which is live now, it's going to give the world examples of the type of innovation that we have out there, if you go back to success stories. West Kentucky Aquaponics is an incredible one. Go online, look at the pictures. It's vertical farming that has not just the greenhouse, but the fish portion that brings together types of science that I'm not sure that we have seen in Kentucky. It's about finding that next way to not just grow food, but to grow more food in a sustainable way. These are the types of growing companies that we want to help go from where they are to this point and then to grow from there, because we all know that the true power out there is the power of a great idea and the ability to take that, to scale it, to commercialize it, to ultimately lead to the type of success right here in Kentucky that we want to see. So today, that public part of its kind, in addition to launching our direct initiatives out of the Cabinet for Economic Development, we're also creating a task force to bring together business, our universities, and areas of government to help take that public-private partnership and what we learn from it and to truly actionize it across Kentucky. This task force will include me personally. It's that important. The governor's going to lead. We're going to invite the Kentucky Agriculture Commissioner. He's been doing work in this area. We invite him to fold it in. This should and can be one big team. Let's all move this state in the right direction. The Executive Director of the Governor's Office of Agriculture, Warren Beeler. You want to hear some amazing stories about ag tech that are going on right now, just ask Warren, but it might be an hour before you talk again. The President of the Council of Post-Secondary Education. We're going to need our universities to be incubators. We're going to need buy-in, and we had 4 of our universities sign on to our agreement today. The Secretary of Kentucky's Education and Workforce Development Cabinet. We need to have the skilled workforce and also the programs to ensure that we can create our own talent, both in the jobs that are needed now and the jobs that are going to be needed in the future. The Secretary of the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development. That individual, Larry Hayes, right now will serve as the chair when I'm not available, because we are going to drive this through the Economic Development Cabinet with everything we have. This isn't just about the Environment Cabinet. 2 president, population under 50,000 and 1 over. 2 Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. 4 members representing Kentucky businesses related to agriculture and ag technology. We're going to invite Jonathan Webb to be one of those members, Mark Lyons to be another, and we've got a couple others. We'll be providing the names, we believe, by Friday, who will actually be directly appointed to the task force. And 2 members representing Kentucky's labor and trade, all of which to be appointed by the governor. So today, I'm going to sign the executive order that creates this task force. We're going to do it right here at our old Capitol, again signaling how we are moving from a rich historical tradition into the future. Like I said, an exciting day here today. And I want people to be able to visualize it. I want them to see just one company and project that is an inspiration to a lot of this. AppHarvest is currently building the largest greenhouse in North America, and they're doing it in eastern Kentucky. They're going to grow enough tomatoes to supply the entire eastern seaboard right out of Kentucky. They're leading in technology. They are going to be one of the flagship projects, not just in Kentucky, but around the world. And Jonathan Webb is a Kentuckian. And I'm not sure if he wasn't, that this project would be going where it is, or if we would have signed the agreement that we just signed, or if we'd be doing what we're doing right now. He is a passionate leader, and I know that while he is committed to the project they're working on, he's committed to making our dream, because this is Kentucky's dream. And to him, a lot of it's Eastern Kentucky's dream. It's to make our dream collectively here in Kentucky a reality, to where we're not chasing other people's economies, we're creating our own. So let me introduce from AppHarvest, Jonathan Webb.
Well, thank you, Governor. So I've tried to continue to say throughout this process that AppHarvest, we're one company. The agreement we signed this morning, Minister of Agriculture Vice Minister of Agriculture in the Netherlands, 7 other companies there, universities in our state and universities over there. The Netherlands is a third the size of Kentucky. You could fit the whole country into eastern Kentucky. They have the second most agricultural exports in the world, only behind the U.S. So again, thinking about that, very little land, very little water, using technology, infrastructure, and growing food for much of Europe. Our concept early on at AppHarvest was to build this facility, but I've said since day one, we're not building steel and glass structures. Our first investor was Steve Case of AOL, founder of AOL, and his team looks at how do they invest in early companies and concepts, and for him it's finding companies that can be a part of rebuilding an ecosystem. So early on we looked at how do we accomplish our goals at AppHarvest, to build some of the largest indoor grow facilities in the world, put them in the eastern part of our state where we've been walloped by the decline of coal. And put it in a region where we do have the hardworking men and women of our region to drive it. But how do we get there long term? And taking apart the way the Netherlands has gotten to where they're at. There's a National Geographic article, "This Tiny Country Feeds the World." It came out about 2 years ago. The Netherlands, after World War II, when they couldn't feed their own country, had government, universities, and private sector over the last 50 years tirelessly work to create what is the future of farming. They're already doing it. They're growing fruits and vegetables with 90% less water. They're getting 30 times yield per acre, not using chemical pesticides, non-GMO seeds. It's a model that's worked for our world, and if we look at what's going on during COVID, I think the challenging thing, our team We have a lot of international partners. We started to hear some murmur around COVID early this year. Unfortunately, our team is not surprised. Much of our team we're involved in this mission and a part of this work because we believe our lifetime is going to see once in a lifetime tragedies happen every 5 to 10 years if we don't put long-term planning in place. This is a very long-term plan for our state, but it's a very long-term plan that our country needs to be shooting towards. I was with Secretary Perdue earlier this year. The USDA has been following our work. I met with him and his team to brief him on what we're doing. Our state has seen the challenges of energy, right? So we saw what's happened, unfortunately, with the decline of coal and the disruption in the energy industry and how that impacted our families and communities. Agriculture is another one on the horizon. Our food system, we're getting our food from other countries. We're trucking it 6-7 days. We're growing it in areas of the country that are running out of water. So if you look at basic pillars of civilization, food, energy, water, health. Right now, the crisis we see is health. And we could have prevented this crisis if there were leaders like our governor, which thank you, Governor, for having this long-term vision and commitment of your team to put a long-term stake out that we're going to lead. But our team looking at these basic pillars going, we can be stronger in healthcare. It's going to take leadership with industry and public and private partnership. We can be stronger in energy and we can be stronger in food. And right now we have an opportunity coming out of COVID. One of our investors, Jeff Ubben, you could look him up yesterday. He stepped away from his fund that he founded, a $16 billion investment fund, to focus purely on impact investing. He has now completely stepped away from his fund and he is purely focused on impact investing. Yes, he's passionate about it. Yes, he believes in it. But he also just believes good investments are going to be the investments in 10 or 20 years that make society a stronger place. So what we're doing here has really caught the attention of many people around the world. We're very fortunate to have a governor who's now creating this platform of government, university, and private sector to work together. And the hard work is out in front of us. This is one facility of ours. It'll be 2.8 million square feet under roof. It'll be one of the largest grow facilities in the world. It'll be the only grow facility of its size to run completely on recycled rainwater. We're collecting all the water on the roof, putting it in a retention pond, then filtering it back in. It'll be the largest LED lighting installation in the world. All of our lights are coming from Signify, a former subsidiary of Philips. That call we just had this morning and that agreement that the governor's team worked on with universities and private sector, it's not just now making ripples, we are making ripples around the world. And going back to our early investor, Steve, and his team, and now we've got Martha Stewart's on our board, a big believer in what we're doing here. Why has everybody gravitated to this effort? Because of our state. That willingness to work, an area of the country that's been known for powering the U.S., Eastern Kentucky, is now going to be an area of the country that's going to be known for building the future of farming and feeding the U.S. We're going to bring production back that's been pushed from outside of the U.S. We're going to bring it back home. There's a study that'll come out next week by one of the top universities in the world stating the U.S. is going to need 18,000 acres of these facilities. This is 60 acres and $120 million investment. You can do the math on the back of an envelope. We need 18,000 acres in the U.S., these facilities, to build a resilient food system so that we're not facing another crisis in 10 or 15 years where we're running out of water or we're not able to transport because we can't get it across borders and we can't feed and get food on our store shelves. It's going to take leadership with long-term vision. Rocky, I get very emotional thinking about this because I remember early on it was a few people with us. Bob Helton, the leadership in Moorhead to get us going there. Rocky, it's this spark, this one catalytic event with this that now we've got where the governor's been fortunate enough to take lead and create this platform with his task force. We're a team player. We think, again, if you look at the Netherlands, there's 10,000 companies supporting this industry. We're one company here in Kentucky. There's a couple other really good companies, but we need to grow this thing. We need to do it rapidly, and we need to build a robust ag industry, not just for our state, but for the U.S. Back to our early investors, that ecosystem concept. We don't believe the future of farming in America is going to be in Boston, New York City, or San Francisco. We believe the future of farming is going to be somewhere in the middle part of the U.S., and now it's just going to take leadership to figure out who wants to grab it and go. Our university presidents are leading. Our governor is leading. And we're going to have private sector companies come in. This is going to be hard work. It won't be easy. We've had a lot of critics to this point. I'm sure we'll have critics going forward, but it's important work that we not need to just do for our state, but we need to be an example for the country. And Governor, thank you so much to you and your team who have worked tirelessly. Unfortunately, through COVID, it's been challenging to try to pull this together, but in a post-COVID world, this is where we need to be heading. We need more resilient systems in food, energy, and healthcare if we're going to make sure, we're not in these situations every 5 years. So thank you, Governor. Happy to talk to you all offline as needed. And thank you, Rocky, for being a fearless leader with us in the eastern part of the state.
Thank you, Jonathan. That gives you an idea of what the true potential is. He is inspiring, and I'd say if nobody's criticizing you, you're not doing anything bold. It just comes with the territory. Next, I want to introduce Angelica Sanchez Vega. She is leading this effort in the Economic Development Cabinet for Kentucky.
Thank you, Governor. Well, I will keep this very brief. I want to remind everyone that we want to work with all public and private partners across the state to rebuild the economy and, more importantly, to reshape our economic future. State government, and that includes the Cabinet for Economic Development, is committed to this goal, and we look forward to working with businesses of all sizes across the entire state of Kentucky. So I would encourage everyone to please visit the website, look at the resources that are available, and reach out to us. We want to hear from you. We want to work with you. In Kentucky, let's get growing.
All right, and we cannot have such a major announcement for all of Kentucky, but that right now is going on in eastern Kentucky without having its very best ambassador to close us out. So my senior advisor, long-term leader in the legislature and proud Eastern Kentuckian, I think from the top of your head to the tip of your toes, Rocky Atkins.
Well, Governor, thank you for your leadership. Jonathan, thank you for your commitment to not only Kentucky, but especially Eastern Kentucky. I'm not only from Eastern Kentucky, I live in Eastern Kentucky. I'm one of those people that witnessed the downturn of our economy through coal, the loss of thousands and thousands of jobs across our region directly in the industry and those that were related some way to the industry. We've talked a long time about how we diversify, how we rebuild the economies of rural Kentucky and Eastern Kentucky especially. And now to see something come to fruition of the types of jobs we never thought we would see. The types of jobs of $120 million investment that's taken place in Round County and Morehead, Kentucky. The opportunity today to witness this collaborative agreement that has been mentioned, and then the signing of a task force. Really not only to see a greenhouse, the largest of its kind, maybe in the world, to grow enough tomatoes to feed the eastern seaboard, but to create 285 jobs, the types of jobs we never thought about 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or even 2 years ago. It's an exciting time to see AgTech, a new economy, a new type of advanced manufacturing that's taking place, and to know that the Dutch government is looking at Kentucky to bring that infrastructure here to create the other companies that maybe make the steel or make the type of equipment that has to go in these facilities to build here in Eastern Kentucky and throughout Kentucky. This is a great day for Kentucky, but this is especially an unbelievable day for Eastern Kentucky. To see the diversification, the rebuilding of an economy, and a new economy like we've never seen. I drove by Jonathan's project Monday morning on my way back to Frankfurt, and I got to see the construction as it's taken place over the months to get to where we are today and a soon opening. But believe it or not, just on the other side of the road from that is another $67.5, $68 million investment by Independence Day, building a new bourbon barrel facility to build bourbon barrels, another 220 jobs. 285 jobs at AppHarvest, 220 jobs at Independence Day, jobs we never thought about. So this is especially rewarding for all of us who have worked so long and so hard to build up a region of Kentucky that needs to be competitive in every shape, form, and fashion, to have the leadership of this governor, greatest workforces in the world, put our railroad workers. It's time to put our steel workers. It's time to put our Eastern Kentuckians back to work. And Governor, with your leadership and your vision, and as a part of your agenda through the governor's race, and I remember that agenda very well. I was on that same path with you to see this become a reality here today. Bob Helton, it's a big day for Kentucky, but it's even a bigger day for our little part of Kentucky, a place that I do love from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. Eastern Kentucky. Thank you, Governor.
Jonathan, I'm guessing some of these questions will be for you too. We're happy to take questions on this topic and then anything that we won't directly address at 4. Gilbert?
We've heard about economic developments in Eastern Kentucky before. We have done line reporting throughout the state on the aluminum facility that the taxpayers are heavily invested on and just haven't come to fruition as promised. How much is the taxpayer investment in this agriculture venture?
Well, what we saw in the last administration was something we'd never seen before in Kentucky, and that was direct investment, not in the form of incentives, but in actually part ownership. What this initiative does is it brings to bear the type of incentives that are available for other projects across Kentucky. And those incentives are all earned. They're not just directly given. This is for the larger projects. The amount of incentives you get, which can be reduced from your taxes basically in a couple different ways, or your withholdings, are all based on the number of jobs you create and the amount you invest. And if we're doing our job, we're auditing that, and it's a full reality. In other words, no incentives if we don't get the full economic impact. Now, there are a couple of other programs in this that are really important, because while that can and should be the rule with larger business, especially one that's established that you're bringing in, sometimes people need a little help to grow. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get growing. So there are both loan programs, and again, those are in the form of loans, and then there are also smaller grant programs. So if you think about the life of what we want to see from somebody who has an idea, and maybe they need to make it work on their farm, maybe they need to build that first model that it'll take. There is a smaller grant available. Oftentimes that helps with efficiencies on our farm, but they're incredible ideas when you see them. Then if you want to scale that up, you want to start production, there is a loan program that goes to a certain point. And then once you're ready, once you've shown that you can do it, once you've attracted that outside investment that we want to connect you to, there are the incentives that are available to the larger companies that are there. Our goal is to have ways to stimulate this part of the economy in every form of the life cycle of a company.
You said there's 285 jobs created with AppHarvest. Are those being created? Have they already been created? And what's the pay scale of that?
Jonathan,
Yeah.
you want to? If you want to come up and answer it here. The question is about AppHarvest jobs, and who better to answer it than the CEO?
So just to make sure we're clear on this first point, AppHarvest has taken no state or federal funding, and we are strong in a strong position to just continue to raise from the private sector. But to get the private sector dollars here, there needs to be long-term vision and planning. There needs to be changed curriculum at universities, and that's where leadership at the government is. That's their job, right? And that's where the governor here is leading. Our job is to attract that private sector capital back. I think we've attracted, it's $120 million all cash, which we've tried to do the numbers. It might be the largest all cash investment outside of fossil fuels, not only in Eastern Kentucky, but maybe in Central Appalachia. To your point on the jobs, so it's a wide range. So we've tried to say the head grower and assistant growers on our team, where we're actively trying to work with our universities to create curriculum. It's plant science meets tech. We're paying people a doctor's salary for that, and they're specialized from all around the world. There's middle range of type water technicians and electricians in a different pay bracket. And then there's our entry-level employees, which we'll have quite a few. And that's where we've tried to, as we reshape agriculture, give dignity and respect to agriculture. So even for entry-level in the facility, everybody's going to have health benefits, $13 minimum wage, and incentivized bonus for everybody, where they could get to $16, $17. We have to remember who we're competing with. My main competitor is the 4 billion pounds of tomatoes out of Mexico last year, where they're paying less than $5 a day. They're using illegal pesticides that you can use once a year in the US. They're using 3 times a week. And we need, frankly, folks, in journalism and media to try to help, write this narrative of just what's out there. Right? It's very difficult for us to track, but we have to, long-term, big picture, think about not only building these facilities and have resilient supply, but we have to be cognizant that we're all voting with our dollar every day. We think we vote at just an election once every 4 years. You vote with the products you buy. And we're going to be growing tomatoes that'll be at conventional pricing. So we'll be at the top 25 grocers. And we don't want a family paying more for that tomato. So we're going to come in at around the same price coming from imports into this country. But we need to be cognizant that when we buy whatever we're buying at the grocery or the store, you're voting with your dollar. And we're making sure that if you elect to vote with your dollar, we're not going to put chemical pesticides. We're not going to put the GMO seeds. And most importantly, we're going to pay a living wage. And that's where our investors, I've been so fortunate to have investors that don't only believe in the sustainable, resilient aspects of our company, but we've tried to create a model where we can at least pay everybody a living wage, upskill along the way, and then of course, yes, we're going to have the high-end jobs of the operation itself. And that's where, again, when we unpack this economy in Holland, there's 10,000 companies that do this in a lot of different ways.
Let me hang out up here. I'm sure a bunch are for you.
I'll get looking for it, but one good question for you will be Wi-Fi statewide. We're going to talk about AgriTech, and there was a national article this week questioning whether more Wi-Fi needs to be get into our rural communities, especially in the new post-COVID economy. Are you going to continue to push Kentucky Wired, or how is Kentucky Wired playing into your plan to try to spread this in other places, just not Appalachia?
Kentucky Wired is part, but not the whole solution to bringing wireless and the internet to every single part of Kentucky. I got a new appreciation for the importance of everyone having access to the internet when we got involved in the lawsuit about what type of restrictions providers could put on what websites that you went to, or whether or not you were redirected to another service provider. And that one ended a little while ago. But I talked to farmers in Kentucky that sold their goods primarily through the internet and learned how detrimental it would be without a free and accessible internet for them. Kentucky Wired, I believe, is over 90% done, which means at this point we need to finish the project, criticisms or not. It's going to provide opportunities certainly for government agencies, and we believe beyond that. It wasn't my project to start with, but at this point, when you look at where it is and the cost that we would pay by not completing it, we got to finish it, and then we got to get the most that we possibly can out of it. Phil?
First of all, why is the maintenance? And then second of all, is these kinds of endeavors increase, or are there going to be other types of produce that's going to be?
So we'll let Jonathan answer why they're choosing tomatoes, but let me be clear that our AgTech initiative is broader than one company. And we want to be in everything from the genetics and the seed, which we have a signatory on that new agreement. We want that being done not just at our universities, but companies that are doing that. We want to continue to develop drone technology like the drone port in Hazard, because now it's so important to mapping out a field. We want to take things like the aquaponics that are going on right now and give the opportunity to scale them up. AgriTech involves so many different parts and pieces, which means it involves so many different jobs that can make up the economy. I want you to think a little bit about Toyota. That's one of the flagship projects that started an industry. So you think about the Toyota factory, but what about all the things that go into the factory that allow them to put together the car that's there? They had to locate new suppliers of all different shapes and sizes, and guess where they located so many of them? Here in Kentucky. Now, if you just look at the one area, the greenhouses, we look at that greenhouse being erected, look at what goes into that. Look at how much manufacturing, how many suppliers, how many construction workers, how many electricians, how many designers, how many engineers, all go into that. That's how I view what AppHarvest is, but also the potential for AgriTech, especially when we get an end user in many ways. You know, the actual production of food, then that gives us the chance to reverse engineer and to say, how do we attract all of the different parts and pieces that make up this economy to Kentucky. And it's going to give new opportunities to so many other things that we're good at. And we are a great logistics state. We are from UPS, both ground and air, to so many other logistical companies. Was one of the reasons that we can do this. And we can do this in such a competitive way. And maybe ultra-competitive way compared to others. It's going to bring new opportunity to Kentucky businesses as well. Mark?
I was just curious, is the AppHarvest site on like a reclaimed strip line? I mean, it just seems to me, Kentucky's so hilly. How do you get a massive greenhouse in that kind of topography?
Our original thesis is we were going to build on reclaimed mine sites, still want to. We were going to be on a site in Pikeville. Because of the stability, and we'll take this offline, it's very challenging. My background was building some of the largest solar projects in the U.S., and I had a passion for coming back to Kentucky, where I love, and building in the eastern part of the state. We want to be on reclaimed mine sites. That's a longer story. That's a whole nother effort. We had to move off of that, and we got onto farmland over in Moorhead, Kentucky, because of Bob. Why tomatoes? The number one import from Mexico, something we quietly have happened in the U.S. We slowly shifted our produce production completely outside of the U.S. 1.2 billion pounds of tomatoes were imported from Mexico 10 to 15 years ago, 4 billion pounds last year. So if you look at our facility, it's going to do about 45 million pounds annually of tomatoes. Again, on the back of an envelope, we can figure out how many facilities we could build if we want to bring that production back into the U.S. within a one-day drive.
And Mark or others, if you get the opportunity, you ought to talk to them about the innovation that's gone on in Moorhead, where in this industrial park, they have their training facility right there in the middle, with the ability for Jonathan's workers to come over to get extra training and to go back and vice versa. It's a really incredible model that I know Rocky had a lot to do with too, that is innovation in and of itself, and it's innovation that brought more innovation. Anybody that hadn't yet? Okay, we'll go back.
Sorry,
Yeah. Nope, we're good.
Kentucky State has a renowned aquaponics program. Is Kentucky State's president of the ground involved in your task force? And is Kentucky State involved?
So we, right now, with the agreement that we just had with the 17 different entities, Kentucky State is not a signatory toward that, but we want every university, every single Kentucky university to be a part of this. So KSU will certainly be a part.
You're aware of their program?
And the nature that all of our universities have, some have a big school of agriculture, but they've all got some amazing different pieces that they do, and then to be able to connect, something we need on the website, I'll admit, when we need additional material on how to connect the rest of the world with some of the things we already do. Gilbert?
So if you are a farmer and you are seeing this announcement from the administration today, what should be your reaction? What should farmers do?
Well, my hope is that today's announcement excites farmers. Today's announcement excites our logistics companies. Today's announcements excites our financial sector across Kentucky. That it gives us direction and energy, that it galvanizes our universities. This is something where when you look at it, everybody can have a part and a piece to help move this Commonwealth forward. I hope it's a reaffirmation, not just of what our farmers do, but about the fact that most Kentuckians and most Americans don't know how technical it is in what they do, how much innovation that there is, and I hope it gives an opportunity for those that are already creating and have great ideas and that are maybe utilizing them in their own backyard, the opportunity to potentially scale them and move them and grow them. That's what we want to do. We want to get growing. Yeah.
Commissioner AppHarvest to be on the task force. How involved do you want the Department of Agriculture with helping develop AgriTech?
Oh, I want this to be everybody in and involved, and I will tell you one area that's going to help about voting with your dollars, Kentucky Proud, and to be able to merge that in and merge it in a way that's not just the final producer, but we use Kentucky Proud in so much of what makes up agriculture. I mean, my hope is that this is being a new sector of our economy that can grow, that we don't have divisions or teams. We don't see that in the automotive sector. We shouldn't see it here either. Else? All right, Chris.
Question for you. My question is about heating those greenhouses the 6 months of the year or so that you're going to need to heat it. How are you heating it? You talked about the LED lights and about the compliance. But are you using energy from coal-fired power plants, or what are you?
So East Kentucky Power is our provider, and we're working with them. We're going to build we're building several more projects behind this. My background is energy, and we're very keen on these facilities are going to be a large energy user because of the LEDs. And we're working with East Kentucky Power on the energy side. But to heat, we use natural gas in a boiler. So I'd love to take you out and look at this boiler. It's bigger than this room, about 10 feet taller. A lot of water comes in. We heat it, and steam goes into the greenhouse, controlling the environment. But to the governor's point, and he has done such a good job with him and his team. This is going to take a lot of people at the table. All of our universities have different skill sets, and if you think about the future of farming, it's not just farming it today. It's going to take engineering. It's going to take a lot of different skill sets at different universities, and our governor's doing a great job of trying to pull all those skills together into one task force.
We'll take one more, and then I know you can reach out either to AppHarvest or our office with additional questions. Bring us home.
You said that you take some questions on other topics as well as the one related to education. This morning there was a large group outside the Capitol family services on to talk about the struggle. We're waiting for word on when in-person help is going to resume. I guess why is it taking?
We're going to have an announcement at 4. What I will say is that we are right now limited in the number of people that we have that can, looking at someone face to face, actually resolve a claim. It's the product of losing 95 employees in 2017 in our unemployment division, along with all of them being moved out of regional centers that year and creating a 12-person call center. Our commitment is to scale that up and scale it up quickly, and that's one of the reasons we're bringing in a private partner so we can train in very short order, where we can, I want to quadruple our workforce on the ability face-to-face to resolve claims, and we're going to have some announcements today, this afternoon, about where there will be some face-to-face beginning early next week.
There were quite a few people who were turned away from the Kentucky Exposition Center yesterday because of the traffic and didn't get to vote. What do you say to those folks, and what needs to be done differently in the fall?
Well, I hope we learn from any challenges that arose on primary election day. My position is I want more and more and more people to vote, and I want to eliminate as many barriers to it. I was against the voter ID law, even though a lot of Kentuckians favor that. I've been Attorney General. I know that there's not fraud there, and I'm worried it'll keep people from voting. I do, though, want to point out that I believe we're going to have the biggest primary turnout in our history. And there are a couple of reasons why. Number one, no excuse absentee ballots, meaning we had mail-in voting. We have mail-in voting in November. We'll have the single largest election that we've ever had. Number two is early voting. We had no excuse early voting. And we do, in our larger metropolises, need to expand our number of polling locations, though I think those that handled the Expo Center did a really good job of making sure people got in and got out. And it may be that in the time of COVID, you have one large and a number of small. But I you know, while there was a lot of national attention that came in, the single largest turnout, that's pretty important. And I hope that the criticisms aren't used as an excuse to pull us backwards, to remove our ability to have no excuse absentee ballots, to remove our ability to vote early, because if they do, we'll have a smaller turnout regardless of our number of polling locations in the fall. We'll have moved backwards instead of forwards. All right, we'll answer more at 4 o'clock. Thank you all very much. An exciting day here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Rocky, Angelica, everybody else who worked hard on this. And thank you, Virginia.